So one of the sponsors of our show is Bevy's Bees, and she gave us some mangrove honey about a year ago, and she also had us taste her version of the mead she made from that mangrove honey. I immediately asked for the recipe, and we made it. And here it is, a year later. We do have the original video of the making of it and tasting and all that in the description below, but for now, it's time for the pour cam. Okay, just some basic information. Yeah, this was bottled a year ago, February 7th, 2022. It's 0.998 final gravity, so this is dry to dry, dry. It's also 13% ABV. Now, if I remember correctly, Bevy's version actually came out sweet. Ours just ran dry, so there's always differences when you try to make someone else's recipe.
This was also before we started really pushing on tweaking the final tasting.
Well, we were trying to follow her recipe.
Right,
so,
right.
You know.
But because it wasn't as sweet as hers,
it's not going to be the same. Yeah. So, color-wise, it's a nice color. It's a little pale, actually. Paler than I expected.
Yeah.
Kind of like a white wine. It's very clear.
Very, 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 very faint, almost greenish color to it.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's probably like a 9 out of 10 for clarity, though.
Yeah.
It's got a lovely aroma.
It does.
It smells of honey. It just smells wonderful. I get a little bit of raisin, too. Pretty sure there's raisins in this.
There was a tea in it. She gave us the tea that she used.
Oh, there's a specific tea.
Yeah.
Okay. It actually smells sweeter than the 998 would make you think.
Yeah. All right,
I'm going in.
Let's go in.
It's definitely dry. If this was a little sweeter, this would be really, really great.
Yeah.
It's got a good flavor. The young funk is gone, but there's a strong bitter aftertaste, and the honey character, I think, is weakened as a result. It's also not as mouth-filling as I'd like it to be.
Yeah, but I'm not too upset with the mouthfeel. I actually feel like it has a pleasant sensation in the mouth.
Just saying, if there was honey, more honey in this, it'd be a little bit better.
Sure.
And we're probably gonna have to do it.
It's kind of interesting because at the very first, my brain is like, oh, it's mead, it's honey, it's
Goosebumps.
Then the sweet, like it has like a hint of sweetness or a cognitive note of sweetness at the very beginning, and then it just quickly goes away.
It's because of the honey character. The honey character in this is really, really strong.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange for something so dry. Usually when they're that dry, you don't necessarily detect honey. This one, I get it, and it confuses the brain. It makes you think it's sweeter than it is. So that's actually kind of cool. It's very strong flavored. It's not like a weak flavor at all.
It does some interesting things for me as I'm taking the path down the journey of the beverage itself. At first I'm getting, oh, it's honey. And then my brain's like, oh, wait, no, it's not sweet. And that's when I get the almost watery is at the very front after that disconnect between.
And then it fills your mouth.
And then it starts to fill your mouth back up with sensations,
It's got a really nice acidity level. It's got a good tannin level, actually, which is kind of surprising. It's not strongly tannic, but it's got enough to give you that kind of, gritty mouthfeel a little bit. That's a bad word for that, but you get the idea. But there's a good acidity, and all that's missing is the sweetness. It's just,
Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, the tea was an orange.
Yeah, it was orange something. Yep. And I'm getting hints of citrus, not a strong citrus, but hints of it.
Right.
Bevy loves her mangrove honey, and she loves making brews with it. So that's why and we've actually made several using the mangrove honey.
Yeah.
I don't detect it as a lot different than, say, a wildflower. It's just maybe a little stronger flavor than a wildflower, like more of the same. It's still very floral, not citrusy, a little bit earthy. So, but it just has more of a strong flavor. She was very proud of that honey.
We noticed that
so.
we have a local beekeeper who is actually one of the instructors at our college, I guess. That's where he instructs about beekeeping.
That's where we got some of our honey.
And he showed us some of his different varietals of honey that he has collected throughout the season. And it was amazing to see not only the flavor and aroma, but the color differences between the different types of pollen. And if you think about it,
same bees, different time of year.
It makes sense.
Different honey.
That the pollen would affect the honey and all those different aspects. But I never really thought about it until...
That's why it's really difficult to say, oh, well, this wildflower honey is better than that. Because, well, when was it harvested? Where was it harvested? They're completely different things. You know, when you say wildflower, it needs to be from that specific... It's almost like vintages of wines.
Yeah.
Because
I think
one year to the next could be different. And...
I think he even used that as another... indicator of the style of honey, rather than just the pollen. He would say, "Oh, this was a
spring or fall."
Spring or fall, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was interesting.
But even from year to year, they could be different too.
Right.
He had the most interesting thing though. That was the honey vinegar.
Yes.
It was actually mead vinegar, but it was naturally occurring.
So what happened is that one of the hives actually got waterlogged, and so water got into the honeycomb and therefore diluted the honey, and
enough to fermented
on its own. So when
but
they
it fermented beyond mead and right into vinegar.
Yeah, and it was delicious.
It was unbelievable.
It was so good.
It was like the best balsamic vinegar ever times 10. Yeah. It was just unbelievable. But
we got off track. Sorry.
Hey, you know, that's part of the show.
Do we have any more of the mangrove?
I don't know if we have any more mangrove, but we do certainly have honey.
All right, let me check and see if we have some of the mangrove, and if not, I'll just grab some honey and we'll do a little experimentation.
But before we do that, we should probably put a score on
this. Do a number? Okay.
I mean, I have to be honest. We're going to do 2 scores for this one. We're going to do it as is, and we're going to do it after sweetening. Because you all know my score isn't going to be super spectacular right now.
This is not to discredit Bev's original recipe.
No, because it was awesome. I think I told her it was like a 9.
And we're just like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah, it came out sweet and it was lovely. It wasn't super sweet, but it had enough sweetness to it that it was really, really nice.
And I think
we should have sweetened this.
If we had back sweetened it, or if, you know, we had gotten it to the
she
gravity.
Used the natural process of the yeast to get it beyond it worked.
Yeah. So in hindsight, if we kept it more to the final sweetness level that she had, I think this would be scoring much higher.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have to do 2 tests on it, but we're gonna do it. We'll do it right.
Okay.
So, do you have a score?
I do.
So do I.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 5.5.
So we're both low, but if you notice, neither one of us went below the 5 mark, which is like our midway kind of like we wouldn't even drink this. And I think for me at least, and I'm jumping the gun here, I'm sorry, because I was a high score. I'm supposed to let you speak first.
You're the lady, you go first.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't go much lower because this has a lovely complexity to it.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
It's not a boring drink at all. The only thing that's really deterring my experience is that sweetness level is so down that all the synapses, all the information that's going to your brain is saying this should be sweet, and it's not, and so it's confusing.
Yeah, this has many levels to it, many flavor components, lots of complexity, but the balance is off.
Yeah.
It just, that one part of it is missing. And to me, that's 33.3% of the equation. And as soon as that's gone, and it's low, like it's very dry, makes the other things just taste off and confusing and not the right information. Like you said, your brain is confused. It's unsweet honey. Figure that one out. Like seriously, unsweet honey. That's exactly what this tastes like. So it just, there's a flatness there that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the acidity isn't coming through as bright as it should be. The tannin isn't coming through as mouth-filling as it should be. And then the flavors aren't staying because they're not turned up. It needs the volume. So let's go find some volume. We still had some mangrove honey. So we're going to grab some. It's starting to crystallize. A lot of our honey is crystallizing. And I'm just gonna grab like that much. It's like half a spoon. So that's probably like 3/4 of a teaspoon. which is probably a lot for this, but it's to demonstrate how the flavor changes very, very quickly when you add sweetening. So inside, that's on the inside. Okay. Now, obviously, this is going to make it less clear. We've actually had that happen a couple times where people asked, oh, I back sweetened and now it's not clear anymore. Okay, well, give it some time. It'll clear out again. But, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. And I can appreciate that.
It's because there's proteins in honey. All honey has that. So
honey's not clear either.
It's going to create a cloudiness. So if we were to remake this again, we would probably back sweeten it with honey as we're doing now, and then pasteurize the entire amount, and then let that clear out again, and then bottle. And
it would probably be a clearer final brew.
Yeah.
There is some goop in the bottom of that bottle, and that bothers me, but if we pasteurize and let it sit, it would probably work even better.
Yeah.
A lot of people are asking, and I'm only talking because I'm still waiting for all the honey to dissolve here. A lot of people keep asking, do they have to pasteurize all the time? We only pasteurize when there is a need to, okay? To me, it's a risk and it's an alteration of the brew. So it's the lesser of two evils. It's either pasteurize or it blows up. If that's not your other option, then there's no need. Like this was not pasteurized because there was no way it was going to re-ferment. It was dry, so bottle it and it's fine. Had we added more fermentables to it, now there's a chance of re-fermentation. That's when we pasteurize. A lot of people seem to be confused on that aspect too. See, we read your comments. This is just not mixing in. Oh well. That's good honey. Okay, I always joke about this, but there's a reason why I do that every time. The smell actually changed. I can smell the honey. That the character was there before. Now I smell honey. In this glass, it's a lot harder to smell, but. Oh.
That's all it needed.
Wow, that brought everything into balance.
Yep.
I could even go a little bit sweeter on that, believe it or not. But the way it is right now, it's got a nice sweetness to the honey without overdoing it. It's got, the tannins have come through. It's a little low in tannin, but it's not super bad. Lovely acidity, and I think that's coming from the citrus in the tea, as well as the honey itself might be a little bit more acidic than usual.
That's good.
The citrus notes come through slightly better. It does have that slightly bitter back note that I get from a lot of mead. Just overall, changed everything about it. The flavor components that I'm getting are floral and earthy. With a little bit of a citrus, not necessarily orange, but there's definitely a citrus flavor there. Wow. So there's like a good 5-6 notes in there. It's not the most complex. I thought there was going to be more complexity, I'll be honest. I thought that adding the honey was going to make it really unfold and show more complexity. It didn't, but it's still fine. So don't take that as a negative. There's still plenty of complexity. I just expected it to really go much deeper.
It was complex to start off with, so I think this just allowed the different things that were happening to work better together.
Sure.
And that sweetness just, it kind of helped bridge the gap between what was appearing to be discordant notes. The floral, the citrus, the acid, those all play nicely together because they're bound with that overlying sweetness. Where before, without the sweetness, it was kind of like, why is this tasting like honey, but it's not sweet? And what is that? Is that floral? Is that earthy? And oh, that's a little too
confusing.
Harsh. Is that citrus or is that fermented honey bitterness? I don't know. And now it's just like, it's a lovely mead.
At this point, the way this is, just the way that is in the glass, I raise my score to like an 8.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I really took some time and sat with it for a while and really made fine adjustments, we could get this much higher. I think this could be a 9 to almost a 10. The honey itself is unique and lovely. And if you can get your hands on some mangrove honey, go for it. I don't know if Bevy has any in stock at the moment. I think it's a seasonal thing. So,
but I will have her email in the description below so you can contact her if you wish and see what she has available. Or you might be able to get put on a waiting list, perhaps, for when mangrove honey is available again.
After us, though, we get some. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.